Podcasting by Professionals teaches you to become the expert host of your own show and podcast for profit. Join us. We're reaching millions.
Welcome to Podcast for Profit. I'm Teresa Maron, the Learn To Queen, and our show is presented by podcastingbyprofessionals.com. If you want to podcast for profit, then you're in the right place. Our show covers topics like content marketing, collaborations, marketing through social media and affiliate sales, and you'll get the up-to-the-minute industry news on syndication and distribution from Podcast.Place. The team at Podcasting by Professionals has a great show for you today.
Are you a podcaster? Spreaker.com gives you the tools to create and distribute your show. Using Spreaker is easy. Use the mobile and web apps to record and listen to your stories. Connect with social networks and automatically share content. Get advanced analytics to track your progress. At Spreaker.com, you can stream your podcast, set up a multi-show network, organize interviews, broadcast from live events, listen and interact live with your audience, and much more. All of this is always available at the best audio quality from the comfort of your own home. Find more materials at Spreaker.com/press. That's Spreaker.com/press. Spreaker.com, the tools to create and distribute your show. Spreaker, a proud sponsor of podcastingbyprofessionals.com.
If you want to start conversations that lead to success, you are in the right place. Podcasting is a great way to grow your brand and your business. But to podcast for profit, you're going to need a strategy. Our pros talk to you today about marketing, distribution, how to get heard, and of course, content. First up, Martha Sanchez continues her series with part 3 of blogging, the social media lead generating machine in the marketing jungle. Then Rob Greenlee, an audio on-demand innovator and head of content for Spreaker.com, shares with us why you have to get seen before you can get heard. Learn to create shows that attract attention with 5 juicy content tips with me, Teresa Maron, and then stay tuned for the red-hot right now insider news from the exploding podcast industry with Podcast.Place. Oh, I hear those drums, so it must be time to enter the marketing jungle with host Martha Sanchez.
It's a jungle out there, and welcome to the Marketing Jungle with me, Martha A. Sanchez, the Google Queen, where every show I bring you marketing tips that will engage your target audience and generate leads. This is part 3 of Blogs, your lead generating machine. In the last 2 segments of the Marketing Jungle, I dove into an in-depth discussion about blogging logistics and content creation, both of which are essential in capturing your audience's attention and creating a message that results in your desired action. The final area to discuss about creating blogs revolves around search engine optimization or SEO strategies. This is what increases the visibility and chances of your blogs being found. After all, creating a great blog is not enough. Your target audience has to be able to find you. Here are some tips to help your SEO. Use keywords to make sure when people are searching for your content, they can find you. Keywords need to be included within your content as appropriate. Enable social media sharing and comments to be posted on your blogs. Utilize the SEO plugins in your website that makes all of this easier. And if you're not sure what this is, ask your website manager. Now that you have maximized your blog's SEO through your copy and technical techniques, let's talk about non-technical SEO strategies you can use to get followers and subscribers. These strategies that I'm going to discuss have resulted in higher visibility, increased social media interactions, and getting my blogs featured in multiple online newsletters and newspapers. First of all, let's talk about consistency. Have a regular schedule for posting and stick to it. This way your followers know when to look for your post, and it also helps with your ranking on Google. Search engines reward consistency. Second, the use of social media. This seems like a no-brainer, but here is where you leverage the other social media platforms to lead users to your blog. Do a little research on the social media user statistics and look for where your target audience hangs out. Make sure your post is a teaser of what the reader can expect from your blog post and have a clear call to action to go to your website to get the answers or solve their problem. Then you want to use relevant pictures in your blogs. So when you use the link, the images pop up to visually engage the reader. Third, you want cross-posting. And what do I mean by this? It means posting your blog link on the top social media platforms, such as Facebook, Google+, LinkedIn, and Twitter. This helps you reach audiences in different markets and makes it more likely that your posts will be shared by a variety of users, as well as increasing the likelihood of your posts being picked up by the various search engines. I know what you're thinking. Martha, this is all great. And now that I have them on the blog, how does this help me generate leads? This is where we go back to our original strategy in writing your blog. At the end of your blog, you want to provide an irresistible free offer that your audience is willing to provide their name and email to get. For example, if I wrote a blog providing tips for social media, at the end of the blog, I might include the copy, "Start targeting your social media marketing more effectively today with my special free gift just for you. Get Martha's 5 P's to power up your social media engine blueprint. Just fill out the form below and get your social media back on track today." So start using these techniques today and grow your list. Remember, these contacts will lead to sales. And last but not least is that you have to have that call to action. You have to have an opportunity to capture leads by creating an opt-in for a free irresistible gift on your blog, but without a targeted call to action for your opt-in, your results will fall short. Likewise, social media posts must engage with a clear call to action, getting them back to visit your blog. So, if you want to increase your audience interactions and learn to supercharge your call to action, then get the How to Create an Effective Call to Action guide. And if you act now, you're going to get a 30-minute consultation call plus a bonus audio with time-saving tips to help your business. So generate more leads today with a well-crafted call to action. Just visit podcastingbyprofessionals.com, go to the team page for Martha Sanchez, and click on the blue Time to Act clock. I encourage you to take action so that you can take your marketing to the next level and grow your business. This is Martha A. Sanchez signing off.
This is Podcast for Profit. Now, Rob Greenlee of Spreaker.
Hey, it's Teresa Maron, the Learn To Queen, and I recently ran into Rob Greenlee of Spreaker.com, and he was sharing some insights with me about the so-called podcast revolution. I mean, he's been around podcasting for over 10 years, and he's played in the sandbox with some pretty big friends, like Microsoft during the Zune days. He's been the ETO and the CTO for Podcast One. He still consults with them. And he's just been named head of content for Spreaker.com, our sponsor. So I was asking him, what's really important for new podcasters to focus on? What's hot right now? What are listeners really looking for? And his answers were so riveting. I said, Rob, can I record this? He said, sure. And this is that interview. Listen in. You have such interesting insights about the podcast revolution. Tell me, is this something that information just comes to you, or do you go out and have certain contacts that you talk to regularly to make sure that you are one up on the competition?
Well, I just stay plugged into the space. It's my daily job, and I've been a content producer for 10 years, and I've been doing podcasting and on-demand radio shows for a very long time. I started doing a show in a radio station back in 1999 called Web Talk Radio, and I've just continued on that path. I got a marketing degree in college, and and always thought of that the web and the internet as a great kind of marketing medium, and podcasting and doing a radio show just became something that I had a passion about and got connected to it, and have just built a lot of friends and know a lot of people in the industry just because of the fact I've been doing it for so long, and have been working, at big platforms like, Zoom podcasts, with Microsoft for 6 years, and have worked, at a variety of other companies now with Spreaker, but I've been with Podcast One for about a year and a half or so as well.
That's awesome. Your show, the new media show, is it's really a great resource for people who want to stay up on the podcasting industry as well. Is that the goal of your show?
Yeah, I think that the goal that I have for the show, and I book all the guests for the show, is to connect people in the industry that are maybe new to the industry to the broader kind of podcast community. Bring on, CEOs and founders and those kind of folks that are new to the space, or that are people that have built a reputation in the space for doing great stuff in the space, and just have that as kind of like a showcase for them. Because there really isn't too many. I think there's one other kind of podcast that tries to do that as well, and it's a podcast that's done by Midroll. That it's called The Wolf Den, and they bring on similar types of guests. I've been on that show as well. There's not too many kind of podcasting podcasts that I haven't been on. If I think back on it, yeah.
As you think back on it. No, your show is an incredible resource for people who are wanting to really get a broad spectrum of what's going on, because I think a lot of podcast hosts get into it. They're very technical. They love the idea of the latest software and the latest hardware. And then there's other people that are really more, they're idea-based and message-based. And they're the ones that, when those two worlds collide, sometimes there's a little bit of friction. So a show like yours is the kind of resource that I look for. I mean, personally, I really like it.
Well, thank you.
Oh, you bet. It's a good show. But let's address some of the people who are coming into the podcast industry right now. What would you think would be 2 or 3 of the most important things to focus on, so, that they don't spin their wheels, run around chasing things that aren't really that important?
Yeah, I think it's really very simple. I just think, focusing on the quality of the content that you're making, and adding value to your audience. I mean, podcasting is a very, very much a personal medium. It's something that people listen to because they like the hosts, or they are very, very passionate about the same topics. It's very different than radio, which is kind of a tune in, tune out kind of a thing, and it's the hit driven thing, and it's where podcasting is much more organic, is much more conversations. It's getting into kind of reality. It's almost like a form of a reality, as we all know, TV, where you're dealing with real people. You're not dealing with scripts and things that have been made up. You're dealing with the real world, and that oftentimes is more compelling than something that's kind of fictional based or not as authentic. And I think that's the key thing that you need to think about. And then just the overall presentation of your podcast, your cover art, make it engaging, make it communicate very quickly what the show's about, have large text on it to communicate in a whole bunch of different sizes that range from, now with iTunes, 3,000 by 3,000 pixels is their current spec that they're putting out there at, in a minimum size of 1,400 by 1,400 size. So that's the first thing that most listeners see is your cover art or your graphics. And then also having a good description, series as well as the episode descriptions that does a good job of selling your show and driving keywords that are important for Google and Bing and those platforms as well for people to find your show. And I think those are the most important things to actually think about.
I think you're right. And that's kind of the fun creative part of it too. I mean, everybody has a certain unique place that they come from, and that's usually why someone wants to start a show, is they have a specific goal that they want to get out there. Mm-hmm. But the creative part is coming up with your show description and your title and getting your graphic arts. That's really, really fun. And then you get into the weekly grind, right, of marketing your show. And you're really good at that. Do you want to share some insight on that with our listeners?
Well, it's the weekly and daily grind of, just like you say, of once you have a show, what do you do with it? I mean, how do you build an audience, right? I mean, it's great to just put a show out, but the truth of the matter is just putting it out isn't good enough, and it's not going to build an audience. You have to get connected. You and your show need to get connected to people, and you need to get connected to the real world and other media as well. I mean, if become an expert in your area on other media as well. Radio, TV, blogs, kind of print stuff. I mean, I would say print is not a huge thing these days, but just get yourself out there. If you're an expert in building or in growing marijuana, or there's all sorts of stuff that people are experts at, right? Go out there and share it with the world and feel like you're trying to connect to people at a very personal level to help them too.
Sure. It always has to be a source of inspiration or information. In my mind, that's the real beauty of podcasting. And, the other thing that you were saying, reality TV, that's great. I love reality TV. I have my little, dirty little secrets of things I really like to watch. But, you have to watch that. And with podcasting, you can hear some really great information or great conversation between people that can inspire you while you're working out, while you're cooking. It's a lot more flexible. And that's the thing that really got me out of the video world and into the podcasting world, is that it's just so usable. It serves a need. So do you have any last thoughts for our listeners today, Rob?
Well, I just think just follow your passions, and once you've launched your show, get it out there in as many places as you can. Get it in Stitcher, get it in. I mean, obviously you have to get it into iTunes, and you have to get it into as many platforms as you can. That was a big thing that I learned from the years of doing my radio show, is that I had to get it on as many radio stations and as many streaming platforms and even public radio stations. I mean, I made a shorter version of my show for public radio, stripped out all the ads and the commercials, and it was all of a sudden a public radio show. So it's just really being creative and finding ways that you can stand out. I mean, it's such a crowded media space now. The noise level is so much higher than it was back in the mid 2000s. There's just so much, social media, Twitter, Facebook, all this stuff is just making it more difficult to build an audience. So you really have to stand out.
Well, congratulations on being named head of content for Spreaker.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
I think we're going to be seeing some great things from that platform, and I know it's my favorite.
Yeah, it was great to be on your show.
All right. Thank you, Rob. We'll be talking later.
Okay, thank you.
This is Teresa Maron, the Learn To Queen, and you just heard Rob Greenlee, head of content for Spreaker.com, sharing insights on the podcast revolution. Thanks so much for listening in.
Imagine having a success story of your own. Whether you want to start your own podcast or re-energize your current one, the Podcasting by Professionals newsletter has what you need to be successful and on the cutting edge of the podcasting wave. So take advantage of this marketing opportunity of a lifetime and start getting your message out to millions by engaging new audiences in the fastest way possible through a podcast. So visit podcastingbyprofessionals.com and sign up for our newsletter today. That's podcastingbyprofessionals.com.
Hi there, I'm Teresa Maron, and I'm the Learn To Queen. Join me and my guest expert collaboration partners for an inside look at the problem-solving industry. We want to help you so that you can help others.
The team at Podcasting by Professionals all share the same vision, building brands that reach millions. Now, producing a podcast that builds your brand is all about telling your story from your personal and very unique point of view. These stories bring us together, they connect us, and they share solutions to problems that we can all relate to. However, it can be a little intimidating telling your story. I know. That's why I created these 5 juicy content tips as a great place for you to get started. So tip number 1, choose one point to make and explore it from 3 different angles. For example, if you have a show about fishing, and this week we're going to fish for wide-mouth bass, then choose one lake and use 3 lures. If you're selling real estate, choose one neighborhood, but feature 3 properties. If you're exploring best-selling books, pick a topic, but feature 3 different authors in that topic. Holiday dining? Well, you can take it from there. Tip number 2, decide your role and then play it very well. Are you the expert, the interviewer, or the host? Experts deliver content. Interviewers discover content through very clever questions, and hosts introduce an expert and then turn it over to them to provide the content. Tip number 3, make your content relatable to your targeted listeners by talking to your guests about your topic as if they were in the room with you. This is how to captivate your listeners and keep them coming back week after week. Tip number 4, always listen to your archives. No one will be more critical of you than you. Listen to yourself, make some notes, then make some changes, and you will improve. And if you like what you hear, chances are you are on the right track. Tip number 5, feature topics that interest you. If you're excited about it, it will come across the airwaves loud and clear. Now, you do have to research it, do your homework, because you're going to want to have some great ideas to share. You are the voice of your niche, and your listeners are waiting to hear what you have to say. Be interesting. Contact me at podcastingbyprofessionals.com to help you define your niche, target your audience, and establish the very best format for your show. This is the first step to having a marketable podcast. Thanks so much for listening, and good luck with creating some juicy content of your own. This is Teresa Maron, the Learn To Queen, your content marketing mentor, and I want to help you so you can help others.
1.5 billion smartphones are waiting for content. Currently, 159 million Americans listen to online radio. Yes, podcasting is here to stay. However, podcasting is more than just sticking a microphone in front of you and talking. Our program, Podcasting for Beginners, will start you with all of the right moves to create a look, feel, and experience that your listeners will not soon forget. Create authority in your industry and connect with new customers with a professional podcast. Isn't that what you want? Join us at Podcasting by Professionals. Our 5-hour program is an easy-to-follow, step-by-step instructional to help you avoid the mistakes that can keep you in a holding pattern for months, even years. Early bird pricing available now at podcastingbyprofessionals.com. Join us and get your name in the game. We're reaching millions.
This is news from Podcast.Place, the web's place for podcast industry news. Serial has inspired another podcast. Attorneys Rabia Chaudhry, Susan Simpson, and Colin Miller have announced the launch of a new podcast, Undisclosed: The State vs. Adnan Syed. It's a podcast promising to dig even further into the murder case behind the incredibly popular Serial podcast, and it launches April the 13th. The remarkable success of the podcast Serial, which brought to light many of the questions that remained unresolved in this case, also left many questions unanswered. In the wake of Serial, much new evidence and information has been discovered by these attorneys. Undisclosed, a bi-weekly podcast, will examine and explore the case in greater detail. The Undisclosed podcast is being sponsored by the Adnan Syed Legal Defense Fund. The trust so far has raised nearly $93,000. At-Large Media signs an exclusive national digital audio sales agreement to represent all of RotoWire's fantasy sports podcasts. At-Large reports RotoWire's podcasts are heard on iTunes, Audio Boom, Stitcher, and more. Lisa Williams, former morning show personality on the nationally syndicated K-Love Radio Network, is launching a new podcast on May the 1st. In an effort to fund the podcast, Lisa is running a Kickstarter campaign with the goal of raising $20,500. Crowdfunding such as this has been an effective means for other podcasters to raise production money. The podcast 99% Invisible became the most successful Kickstarter in journalism when it launched its campaign in 2012. And finally, the New Media Expo takes place alongside the NAB show in Las Vegas at the Convention Center, April the 13th through the 16th. Keynote speakers will include Podcast One's Norm Pattis. The convention brings together podcast hosts, producers, and technical experts in a forum designed to facilitate the sharing of ideas and new developments. Planned sessions will cover content creation, social media marketing, commercial advertising, and more. Dave Lee, media producer and podcaster, will provide daily reports to the Podcast.Place website from the New Media Expo in Las Vegas. Dave's reports will include summaries of the convention sessions, along with observations gleaned from interviews from attendees. For more podcast industry news updated daily, visit Podcast.Place, a website devoted exclusively to on-air hosts and producers working in the podcast industry. Brought to you by podcastingbyprofessionals.com. And that's what's happening in the podcast industry from Podcast.Place.
Join us next week on Podcast for Profit when our guest is Kimberly Rinaldi, creator of Lessons in Joyful Living Radio Network.
Become an expert host of your own show and podcast for profit with podcastingbyprofessionals.com. Join us. We're reaching millions.